So since we have such a small group, my name is Sharon Rich. I'm going to be presenting to you today. And I just wanted to kind of get a feel for who Gerald and Suzanne are. Gerald, are you a professional guardian, social worker? What? I don't know if she can. There she.
Yeah, I just asked him to unmute, so I don't know if he's able to or not. A couple more people are joining us too.
Oh, they are. Okay. Suzanne is a paralegal. Great to know. Thank you, Suzanne.
Can you hear me? This is Gerald.
Hi, Gerald. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a CPA, and I also, my grandson is disabled, and I'm particularly interested in information for him.
Very good. Okay.
I don't know if you're going to get into it, but I'd like to hear some information of compare with the ABLE account versus or in conjunction with the Special Needs Trust and how all that flows.
I'm actually, Gerald, doing a presentation next Tuesday with our guardianship chapter group on that very topic. I am not going to get into ABLE accounts today. With a limited time that we had to focus our presentation on a different segment, but I am happy to speak with you, privately. If you call AGED and ask for Sharon, I'd be happy to, give you some information on that. And we're not going to really be touching on third-party special needs trusts so much today. We are going to be going through some of the Medicaid programs. So I think it'll still be beneficial to you. But again, I can go through, I have like lots of different presentations that I do. But I'd be happy to, kind of talk through some of those special issues with you
Okay.
on a one-on-one.
Okay, maybe you can give me the videos that you've had on those subjects if possible, or if
Sure,
you've
we'll
done
talk
them.
offline.
Okay, fine.
Okay. All right.
Fine with me.
All righty. We have Tammy and Corina. Are you all, what's your background, Tammy and Corina?
This is Karina. I'm a guardian, board certified patient advocate, insurance agent, and we have several clients that have the full trust.
Very good. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If everybody would make sure that your phones are muted, I would appreciate it. Let me move over here. So again, my name is Sharon Rich. I am the Senior Trust Advisor here at AGED. We are a nonprofit organization, and our primary business is managing pooled special needs trusts. So all of our clients are on some sort of Medicaid. And so we, deal with lots of the different programs. And I want to just try to kind of help you tie the pieces together today and give you a few of the programs that might be able to help your clients as they go through the continuum of care, where they may need a little bit of care and they get to the point where they need more care. So hopefully it will be engaging for you and give you some good information. I do encourage you to use us as a resource. So feel free to, reach out to me at any time after, the presentation if you have specific questions. I will be stopping at different parts of the program to ask for questions. I have about 45 minutes worth of material, and we want to try to keep this to around an hour or so. So we do have some plenty of time for questions too, I believe. And I wanted to thank Julie Stryer here, who's on the call and help coordinate everything for us. And Julie does a fantastic job with helping us with all our marketing things here at AGID. So again, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and Nick, our executive director, is on the call also. So we'll go ahead and get started. Julie's going to move the slides for me. There we go. So we've got a case study today by an individual named Paula. I'm going to take you through her care needs from, like I said, you know, some minor types of needs to where she becomes, where she needs actually nursing home care, and tell you about some of the programs that might benefit her. So we're going to go through some of the Medicaid programs today. Medicaid has both medical side to it, as well as a long-term care side of it. So a lot of people just think of Medicaid as only paying for nursing home. There's a lot more to it than that. Some of these programs, share of cost, low income subsidy, and Medicare savings programs we're going to touch on today. We're going to also talk about a pooled special needs trust as a way to qualify for benefits, Medicaid benefits, when you have too much money. Medicaid sets financial limits, and a pooled trust can be used to qualify when you have too much income or assets. So go ahead and change the slide, Julie. So who can use a pooled trust? Again, a pooled trust is a economical vehicle to use to qualify for Medicaid when you have too much money. We help a lot of people who cannot afford their medications or the co-pays when they go to the doctors or the hospitals or need a test. I have people come into my office and say, well, I need an MRI on my knee and I can't afford it. It's going to cost me $200. I'm living on a fixed income. You know, what can I do to reduce my out-of-pocket medical expenses? So it's really about helping people afford the care that they need. Sometimes medications are very expensive also. We also help a lot of nursing home and assisted living residents to qualify for the long-term care program that will help pay for part of the stay in the assisted living and part of the stay in the nursing home. We're going to talk about those programs. People who can no longer work because of a disability. A lot of times people get into an accident or have some kind of traumatic event in their life and they're younger, maybe they're 40, 50, and they can no longer work. So we can help those types of people also qualify for different Medicaid programs, even if their income or their assets are a little bit too high. Developmentally disabled adults also can benefit from a pooled trust. Pooled trust is a type of a special needs trust. There are different types of special needs trust. In the pooled trust, it's the disabled individual's money going into the account. So sometimes, let's say a developmentally disabled individual may get an inheritance and it has not been structured to go directly into a special needs trust. So now they've got money, they're on government benefits, and the inheritance is going to kick them off their government benefits. So we do a lot of trusts for those types of individuals, and we work with attorneys throughout the state of Florida to help plan and help those individuals with the best planning options for them. So let's dig into some of the Medicaid programs. Medicaid is like ice cream. There are so many different kinds of Medicaid and different programs. So we're just going to touch on a few today with the limited time that we have. Basic concept of Medicaid that we're talking about today is for the aged and disabled. So by aged, we're not talking about like family Medicaid for the pregnant people and things like that. So for these types of Medicaid programs, you need to be 65 or older to be eligible, or blind or disabled. So your population that is under 65 is usually on Social Security disability benefits, or SSI, which is also a Social Security disability benefit. So that and basically that means, as far as being disabled under 65, that means you're unable to work in substantial gainful employment for a period of at least 12 months. So if you've had something happen and you can no longer work, very often you apply to Social Security and get put on one of those benefits. Provide medical and long-term care expenses. So Medicaid, again, has both a medical piece to it and a long-term care piece. Medicaid has financial eligibility limits for both your monthly income and your countable assets. So the monthly income is everything. It's gross income, pensions, Social Security, different types of monthly income coming in to you. Assets, I'm not going to go into assets too much, what's countable and what's not, but I will say that a home, your homestead, is not counted as an asset. Get a lot of questions there. As long as it's worth less than, it's about 600,000 right now. In a car, one car doesn't count. Just about everything else you can get your hands on counts. You do have to be a US citizen or a qualified non-citizen and a Florida resident. So we get people moving from New York that are on Medicaid benefits up there. They want to get on benefits down here in Florida. They cannot apply until they get to Florida and can show proof of residency. Of course, you have to have a Social Security number. And one of the things that Medicaid says is you must apply for all benefits that you're entitled to. So you can't just say, well, I'm not going to take my pension because I want to be able to qualify for Medicaid. They don't like that. So those are the basic requirements for this type of Medicaid. So this is a chart. They just changed the format on this chart, and changes about every 3 months. Sometimes the numbers change, sometimes they don't. The chart is read by looking at, in this chart, they've got sections. On the first section on the left is the ICP, HCBS, and hospice. That's an actual Medicaid program. That's your long-term care program. Thank you, Julie's pointing it out, for your nursing home and assisted living residents primarily. You'll note that there's a top number and then there's a bottom number inside of that box. The top number is for an individual. The bottom number is for a couple. Then over to the very right, there's an asset limit for an individual and a couple. So I'm going to take you through some of the programs on this chart. There's medically needy, share of cost, and then we go down to the different coverage groups. Qualified Medicare beneficiary, we're going to talk a lot about. And you'll note that's a medical Medicaid. And you'll note that the income limits for the QMB is different, and the asset limits are different than what the limits are for the ICP nursing home program. So different programs, different limits. We've added the SSI to this chart, so it's more like the other chart. And so there's some other information on this chart. that I do a 4-hour training that I get into a lot more depth about the different programs. Today, we're just going to focus on a couple of them. So I think that's really all I want to talk about on this chart today. So I want to introduce Paula to you. You go to the next slide, Julie. Paula is our 78-year-old lady who lives in a manufactured home. She's got a couple cats and a small dog. Paula is living on her Social Security. That's all that she gets every month. Her gross Social Security payment is $1,800 a month, but she's only getting $1,651 into her checking account because they're deducting for her Medicare Part B premium. That's $149 this year. Paula still has some savings in her checking and savings account of $15,000. And Paula has some medical conditions now at her age. She's got diabetes, she's overweight, she's got some anxiety, early stage COPD, and she's got a little bit of a heart condition. So she's managing, but her medical expenses are starting to, kind of add up for her. Paula has chosen a Medicare Advantage plan. That's also kind of known as an HMO plan, where it's a all-in-one. She still has to pay her Part B premium, again, of the $149 a month. Paula's medications in our example right now are about $300 a month for the different, insulin, the anxiety meds, things like that. In Paula's Medicare plan, she has to pay $45 when she goes to a specialist. If she ended up in the ER, she'd have, a higher copay for that. If she needed a test, things like that, she would have a higher copay generally for that. The plan that she's on has an out-of-pocket maximum of $6,000. So if Paula ends up in the hospital, she, could come out owing $6,000, but that's pretty much it for the year. She's, again, living on a fixed income. So if that happened to her, think about how much that's going to deplete her assets. Right now, Paula's household expenses are $1,600. So, she doesn't have a lot of extra money to live on. She's going to be starting to dig into her principal with these expenses. So I want to talk about a couple of the Medicaid programs that could potentially help Paula or somebody like her. A low-income subsidy is a wonderful program. It's managed by the Social Security Department or administration. If you can qualify for the low-income subsidy, you're going to get what they call extra help for medication prescription drug cost. So your medications will go down to $0 to $10. This is a wonderful help for people. The cost of drugs is only getting higher and higher. Insulin can cost anywhere from $100 to $300 a month. You're living on a fixed income, that can really, dig in to your income every month. This program will also pay your Part D, that's your drug plan if you have one, deductible, and a Part D, the Part D premium. That would be if you have an individual Part D plan. In Paula's case, she's on that Advantage plan, so she is subject to a deductible every year for her medications, but she doesn't have to pay any more for the premium for that. It also keeps you out of the donut hole. I'm going to go through what that is. I'm sure some of you have heard about the donut hole. How do you apply for this? It's actually, you can call the Social Security Administration online. Some of your clients may get letters in the mail. You may qualify for this, etc. It's also automatic with a certain, some of the programs that we're going to talk about. So this is a great, great program. All right, some of the other programs are, oops, back one, Julie. Or was this the next slide? Share of cost. Okay. So if we're in a live session, I'd ask for a show of hands of who's heard of medically needy share of cost. A lot of times people apply for Medicaid and they get put on this program. If you note, there's no income limit to that, but there is an asset limit, $5,000 in countable assets for an individual. So if you can get this program, you will have what we call full community Medicaid. Once you meet your share of cost, but this recurs every month. So every month you can get Medicaid only when you've met your share of costs. How does that work? The government looks at your income, and let's say in Paula's case, her income is $1,800. They subtract 180 from it and say, every month, Paula, you would have to incur medical expenses of $1,620 before Medicaid kicks in. So, you know, people end up in the ER room, chest pains, whatever, at the beginning of the month, so they can incur that medical expense. It's a very inefficient way to get medical coverage. Again, it starts over every month. So it's just not a highly effective or efficient way of going about trying to get help to pay for your medical expenses. One of the good things now about share of cost is that if you qualify for it, you can get a dental plan for that month. So some people try to actually get all their drugs paid for at the beginning of the month. I mean, if you had $1,600 worth of drugs, you could go in, try to get those all paid in one day. Now you make your share of costs for the rest of the month. You can go to, you know, the doctors or get some dental services, etc. So we need a lot of people that are on share of cost and need to get additional benefits. So let's see what additional benefits there could be. Programs for people with Medicare. These programs here, QMB, SlimB, QI1, are savings programs with a Medicaid component. So it's Medicare with Medicaid. Medicaid kind of acts as a supplement. So your Medicare is going to be primary. Medicaid is going to come in and pick up as a supplement. You can, if you're on one of these plans, you are actually eligible to change your Medicare Advantage plan or prescription drug coverage every quarter. So it makes it a little bit more flexible on which plan you can choose. I'm going to go through the differences. And again, you apply through DCF. So if you flip the slide, Julie, I'm going to go through what QMB is here. Again, income limit, look at the limit, $1,074 a month in gross income. The government says, we're going to give you some help as long as your income every month is under that amount and your countable assets are less than $7,960. Okay, great. Some people do have that limited income. What do they get? They get extra help for medications, the LIS that we talked about. Again, this is your reduction in med cost to $0 to $10. No more no deductible for your prescription drugs, and no donut hole. So it keeps you out of the donut hole. Your Medicare premium also is paid under this program. So in Paula's case, instead of her check being, you know, $1,651, her check would go up to $1,800 if she could qualify for this program. Her Part B is not going to be deducted anymore from her Social Security check. The deductible that's at the beginning of the year for Medicare expenses is $0. And the big thing with QMB is that your co-pays for the doctors, hospitals, etc., are zero. So as long as you stay within the network of doctors that take Medicare, Medicaid, you're not going to have to pay when you go to the doctor. So the person that comes into my office and says, I can't afford that MRI, under this program, that's zero cost. So as long as Medicare covers the expense, Medicaid is going to pick up the difference, because, you know, in my longer presentation, I talk about what Medicare pays for and what it doesn't, or what it covers. It basically covers 80% of the expenses. So who's going to pay that 20%? So QMB is going to pay that 20% for you. So wonderful program. Okay, next slide. These are the other two Medicare savings programs. The difference with these and QMB, the income limits are a little bit higher, but this only covers your, you get extra help with this for the medication. So your medication costs are going to go down and they're going to pay your premium. But what they're not going to pay is all those co-pays when you go to the doctors and the hospitals and need the tests. So when we're trying to help people with a pooled trust by reducing their accountable income so they can qualify for these programs, we try to get them to QMB, that is a much more comprehensive program, covers more things. So let's talk about Paula again. She got the flu and was in the hospital for 6 days. She got discharged to home. But her lungs were compromised because she had the flu. Now she becomes depressed. She's got more medications, inhalers, depression medications, oxygen. So her medical costs are starting to add up. She's also got a hospital bill now that she has to pay for. Her med cost is now $600 instead of $300, and she's got to pay for more specialist visits now. So on her fixed income and limited savings, is she going to take the meds that she needs? Is she going to go to the specialist? Is she going to feed her pets? I mean, we have people that say, I'm feeding my pets. I can't afford to feed myself. So let's go to the next slide. So, we talked about some of the programs that could potentially help Paula. And I'm going to, so let me just pause briefly for any questions regarding these programs, and we're going to continue on through with some more examples.
If you guys have questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself or ask them in the chat.
Okay. We can go on to the next section, and I'll go ahead and take questions also as we go through and at the end. So we're going to help Paula get these benefits. Her income was too high to qualify on her own. So here's how a pooled trust works. Any monies you put in the trust do not count for Medicaid purposes. So you can transfer income every month into the trust. You can transfer your excess assets. There's no waiting period. You can qualify for Medicaid immediately. One of the rules, though, around using a pooled trust is that you have to be disabled. So if you're under 65, you're going to be on one of the Social Security disability programs. If you're 65 or older, you're going to need to get a disability determination done, and that's basically just providing medical records. So I have to make sure when someone wants to use a pooled trust that they're not able to work. If they come and they say, oh, well, I'm 70 and I'm still working, I just want this help, I'm not going to be able to help them. The trustee is a nonprofit organization. So AGE is a nonprofit. There's other pooled trust companies around the state of Florida. When money goes into the trust, we can pay for things that the government benefits don't pay for. So we pay lots and lots of bills for our clients. But the rule is what we pay for has to be for our beneficiary. It has to be for them. We can't pay for gifts for other people and things like that. At death, the funds in the trust can be retained, or we can pay back Medicaid and then give the money to the heirs that are named in the documents. So that's the basic rule. Medicaid says we're going to let you get extra benefits during your lifetime, even though you got, money in the trust, but when you die, you cannot give your money to the heirs unless you pay us back first. So basic rule. Next slide. These are the codes that govern what we have to do as far as a trustee in managing the trust. There's federal code, social security code, and down in the bottom left here, the Medicaid guidelines for Florida, saying that pooled trust is a legal instrument for disabled individuals and allows disabled individuals to place assets and or income into the trust to qualify for Medicaid. So that's right out of their policy manual. Next slide. Just don't have time to go into a lot of that. How do you join a pooled trust? There is a joiner agreement. It is a fill in the blank document. There's of course a fee agreement, a trustee fee, proof of identification. If you're a professional, if you're a guardian, you should get a court order to create, in other words, sign the trust and fund it for your client. And we have some samples and everything because you're moving money around. You need to get a court order. Basically, once you do all the documents and you fund the trust, then you provide the information to DCF and or Social Security to tell them about the trust and have them do the qualification for Medicaid. We do a lot of accounts where there are no assets going into the trust. There's just income. They're over the income limit only. And they don't have, they don't usually consult with an attorney in that case. But if they do have savings, we do ask them to consult with an attorney to make sure the pool trust is the appropriate vehicle for them. Next slide. So here's how it works. Paula's got $1,800 in income and $15,000 in assets. All of that is in her bank, and every month her Social Security continues to go into her bank account. She wants to qualify for the QMB program, Medicaid program. She's going to run $800 every month into the trust. We set up a transfer for her from checking into trust. This reduces her countable income down to $1,000, and that allows her to qualify. She's placed $8,000 of her assets into the trust because she has to also get down below the asset limit of about $7,000. So every month she's putting $800 in. She's also got $8,000 in there. What are we going to do with the money? We're going to pay Paula's bills for her. Whatever she sends to us to pay rent, mortgage, utility bills, lots of different things. As long as it's for Paula, we can pay it. Next slide. So that's a great visual on how the trust really works. So summary, Paula is going to establish the pool trust so she can get the QMB benefit. And we're going to pay her bills. What's this going to do for Paula? Next slide, Julie. This is Paula's Social Security check's going to go up by $149 because the government's going to pay her Part B premium. So now she's getting $1,800 into her checking account. Her meds are $0 to $10 per script. So instead of $600, she's now spending $100 a month in medications. She can afford the meds. She pays nothing for the co-pays when she goes to the pulmonologist, the cardiologist, all the ongoing care that she needs. Her benefits are going to pick that up. So now Paula can afford the food that she needs for herself and for her pets. This is a great program. We do this for a lot of clients. Any questions there? Okay, we'll go on. I'm sure you'll have questions at the end when we tie everything together. Now Paula had a stroke. She fell and she was on the floor all night until a friend came to check on her for church. Friend called 911. Paula ends up in the hospital. She fractured her hip and now she's got some mild cognitive issues. So the hospital discharges her to rehab. They want to get her stronger. She was in the hospital for 10 days trying to get better. So now she's going to rehab. Is Paula going to be able to go back home? Is she going to need skilled nursing? Is she going to need assisted living? What is she going to need? Now let's think about it. If Paula was not on QMB, her rehab cost after day 20 would be $186 a day. That's how Medicare works now. They pay for the first 20 days in rehab. She needs to stay there, $186 a day. Okay, that's really would not be good. So thank goodness Paula's on QMB. Next slide. What are Paula's options? Long-term care. I'm going to go through a couple of the long-term care programs now. ICP is your skilled nursing facility, what they call a SNF, Medicaid. HCBS is Medicaid when it provides some benefits if you're in your home or if you're in an assisted living facility. There are income limits and asset limits. This program has a higher income limit, $2,382 a month, but it has a lower asset limit, $2,000. There's a personal needs allowance of $130. So basically you're allowed to keep $130 out of your income when you're in a nursing home. I'm going to go through that a little bit more. Next slide. So this is the home and community-based benefit program. Provides, what does it provide? So if Paula needs to go back home or into assisted living, what could she get besides her QMB? It might pay for some medical supplies, emergency response. This is your program that pays for adult daycare. It does have some care management and home health care, but it's very limited. It's usually about 10 hours a week, sometimes more if you're very needy, but it's very limited. It's not 24/7 care, some delivered meals. This is the program that also can pay about $1,000 to $1,300 towards an assisted living bill. So it's not going to pay the whole assisted living bill. You still have to qualify. This doesn't cover medical services, so you still have to have some kind of, plan, whether in Medicaid, hopefully, for the medical side of things. Next slide. The problem with this program is that it's got limited funding. Medicaid is funded both federally and by the state. The state doesn't have enough money to go around to pay for everybody that needs this kind of help. I get calls all the time. Mom's in rehab. She can't go back home. What are we going to do? We need Medicaid to help pay for assisted living. Well, guess what? There's a waiting list for this program. The whole idea was that, the government said, oh, we're going to set up this program because we don't want everybody having to go into a nursing home, okay? Even if you meet nursing home level of care, but there's not enough money. So let's go to the next slide. This is your nursing home program. So I'm going to tell you how this works. You have to meet medical and financial criteria, of course, for for nursing home Medicaid. You can't just give all your money away and say, I'm down to the $2,000 asset limit. They're going to penalize you. It's not that you can't get Medicaid for the nursing home. It's just going to have to wait for it based on how much money you've given away. If you have a spouse that is still going to live in your home, and you, let's say, you know, John and Mary, and John has to go into the nursing home, the spouse is allowed to have a certain dollar amount. It's like $130,000 right now in countable assets. So only the spouse going in the nursing home then has to meet that income and asset limit test. Here's what I want you to understand. When you go into a nursing home, you still have to give your income to the nursing home, less your $130 allowance. So if you're making, or in Paula's case, she makes $1,800, she would have to give, you know, $1,800 less 100, a little over $1,600 to the nursing home every month. Sometimes if you have some medical expenses, unreimbursed medical expenses can be taken off of that patient responsibility. When you're in nursing home, on nursing home Medicaid, most, if not all, of your medications and supplies are paid for. So basically you're giving the nursing home your income and pretty much everything is covered. Next slide. Another concept in regards to these programs, before we get back to Paula, is managed care. Several years ago, Florida went to managed care for Medicaid. So you've got to pick plans when you go on the long-term care programs for to cover who's going to pay the nursing home. The plan is going to pay it. And then MMA is a medical plan, dental plans. There are some specialty plans for chronic conditions, mental illness, some other things there. But just really the idea here is for you to understand that you do have to, you're going to have your Medicare and your Medicaid is going to be provided through a plan. Next slide. So remember, Paula is in the rehab right now. And the question is, can she go home? Can she qualify for, what are we gonna do for Paula? They've told her she can't go home, okay? She's not safe to go home. Paula wants to go to an assisted living facility, but guess what? There's that waiting list and she can't really pay for assisted living. It's going to cost more than she has. So here's a little way to get the Paula over to assisted living and have Medicaid kick in. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Paula qualified for nursing home Medicaid. That's the ICP and skilled nursing first. And how is she going to do that? She still has $6,000 in the checking account. So she didn't, in my example, she didn't deplete her checking account. So she's going to put everything except $2,000 into the trust. So she can get down below the $2,000 limit. And now we're going to pay Paula's bill to the skilled nursing facility. She's just going to run all of her income into the trust. We're going to pay the skilled nursing facility. She chooses one of the comprehensive plans, like I talked about. Paula doesn't technically need QMB at this point because this type of Medicaid is going to cover all of her expenses. So let's continue on, and we're going to take Paula through the continuum here. After she's in the nursing home for 60 days on Medicaid, she would be allowed to transition to assisted living if she, medically is capable of doing that. And her program would just change. So she's going to be able to keep her long-term care Medicaid But instead of it being the ICP program, now it's going to be the home and community-based program. It's going to help pay the facility $1,100 in my example. So the way it works with this kind of Medicaid, you go into assisted, you find an assisted living and it says, we're going to charge you $2,800 a month. It could be $4,000, $3,000, whatever the assisted living says they charge, that's what you're responsible for. Medicaid's only going to pay $1,100. So you got to come up with the rest. In this example, Paula has to come up with $1,700 a month to pay towards the assisted living. Now, the medical coverage, though, is going to be a little bit different. This program is not going to pay for all of her medicines again. So she's out of the nursing home. Now she needs her QMB. Okay, so she needs QMB or potentially Meds AD. She could get a program through the Meds AD program, which is a little bit beyond this discussion. But basically, it's medical. It covers the medical piece for her. Also, remember, she's got the manufactured home. So when Paula's in the facility, we can still pay for, her lot rent or in my example, she owns the home, and we can pay for those expenses, but she doesn't need the home anymore. So she's going to sell the home and she can put all those proceeds into the trust. She keeps her Medicaid. Next slide. So what have we done for Paula? Let's recap. While she was at home, she didn't have any Medicaid benefits. She was spending down her savings because of her healthcare costs. We opened a pooled trust for Paula. She qualified for the QMB Medicaid right away, reduced her medical costs. Her drug costs went down dramatically. Her out-of-pocket, zero for the doctors and the hospital. So we helped her extend the life of her money. Then Paula, had the stroke. She went into the rehab. She wasn't safe to go back home. So she got on the skilled nursing ICP program. After 60 days, she was able to go to an assisted living facility. So she's now in the facility. She still has some savings. For her extra things, we can buy her a nice recliner, we can pay for her cell phone, art supplies, books, those types of things that kind of help Paula improve her quality of life. Next slide. So overall, we've helped Paula improve her health and wellness. She got better medical care, her money lasted longer, and her quality of life was enhanced. So that's what makes us feel really good about what we do. We're really helping people to improve their quality of life. You can move on, Julie. And this is just a summary of the different programs that we talked about today. So next slide is the last slide. I've got some helpful websites here for you, the DCF website to apply for benefits, policy manual, program fact sheet, all just different things. There is a prohibition against balance billing, which means when you're on that QMB medical Medicaid, you cannot be billed by the doctors. A lot of people don't know that. And we will actually help our clients by reaching out to the doctors, because they'll get a bill and say, well, doctor says I owe $40. We'll say, no, they're not allowed to bill you. They served you as a patient, knowing you were on, Medicare, Medicaid, they can't charge you. As long as Medicare covers it, they can't charge you. So that is the next slide is the end of the presentation. There's a wonderful book called Medicare and You, 2021. There's a new one out every year. You can get it online. It talks a lot about Medicare and what Medicare covers. We have a rapid resource directory on our website that has lists of guardians and attorneys and facilities for every region in the state of Florida. So we thank you for joining us, and I would definitely like to open the floor up. Is this something you think, has been beneficial? Can this help somebody you know, a neighbor, a friend, a patient? What kind of questions do you have for me that I can answer?
As a quick heads up, we got a question about the slides. I will be emailing out the slides to everybody, and we'll see about getting recordings out to people. A couple of people asked about the recording, so I'll see about getting that out too.
So this,
Can you hear me?
this was
Can I-
kind of, Gerald, hi, yes.
Gerald.
Hi. Okay. Question. You apply for the QMB program gets approved through DCF, or do you have to deal with Social Security?
You can apply through DCF. You can also call Social Security, and you can do a paper form.
Okay, but you do it with the SNAP when you apply with the SNAP form. Is that automatically include the calculation of the for QMB?
I'm not familiar with the SNAP form. We have Medicaid specialists in our office, but I know when we apply for QMB through DCF, we do it online. We also apply for the SNAP or food assistance benefits at the same time. Whether the paper form is the same, I kind of doubt it, because you have to give, I know you have to give on the paper form for the QMB, you have to give your assets. I'm not sure that the SNAP application asks for that.
Okay, would to reduce your income, if you're collecting SSDI, let's say you get $800
Yes.
a month. Okay, now if the disabled person, in this case a minor, I mean under 65, collecting SSDI contributes $800 a month to a pooled income trust, that would reduce his countable income related
Correct.
to QMB?
Correct.
For QMB
Related
also.
to all the programs we talked about today, the QMB, the ICP, the home and community based. So if you're over the income limit for the nursing home limits, you can also reduce your countable income by using the trust.
Okay.
QMB also.
All right, fine. And in the same context, would a contribution to an ABLE account by the disabled person reduce his SSDI income, countable income for QMB? Do you know?
No.
It would not.
No.
You do not know?
An
or-
ABLE account is great, but it doesn't get you like Medicaid. I mean, it can't, from an asset standpoint, it's not, when the money's in the ABLE account, it does not count as an asset for Medicaid
Okay,
until you get to about $100,000 or so.
okay.
Okay.
Fine, but I'm talking about the monthly income.
No, I don't believe you don't reduce countable income through an ABLE account.
Okay, what about a contribution to a special needs trust, a third party or a first party compared to a pooled income trust? Is that different?
Okay, so a pooled trust is called a pooled special needs trust. Okay, and I know a lot of people call it income trust because they think of it as income, but it's income and assets. Okay, it is a first party special needs trust. So there are three kinds of the first party special needs trust. That means the disabled individual's money is going into the trust. There's a D4A, D4B, and D4C. We're a D4C. The pool trust is a D4C. That's a disabled person's money going into the trust. You have to pay Medicaid back at the end of that trust when the beneficiary dies. Third party trust, on the other hand, is mom or dad or somebody else's money being put into a trust. Again, does not count for Medicaid purposes. So if mom and dad do their planning correctly and leave the inheritance for disabled Johnny into a third-party special needs trust, it's not going to disrupt Johnny's benefits. Okay,
Okay, understood.
But Johnny
But-
cannot put his money into that third-party trust that mom and dad created.
Okay, if he puts it to a first-party trust,
He
then
can
it
put
would
it
be,
into the first party.
and then it would reduce his monthly countable income.
Yes. So sometimes we have both. For one individual, we'll have a third-party trust and a first-party trust.
Okay, and that's, now are there rules for determining monthly income or assets different in a first-party trust versus a pooled income trust, or they're the same thing, really? Just,
It's all based on Medicaid. It's Medicaid rules. So, no,
okay,
no, there's no difference. You have to be careful with what type of benefit it is, though, Gerald. SSI versus SSDI. Two different benefits, and there are differences with what we can pay out of a special needs trust, depending on which benefit an individual may be on.
okay, that would be rent and stuff like that would be disqualified?
It would count as income to somebody on SSI.
Or
Reduce the
SS
SSI payment, may not kick them off, but again, that depends. That's, that gets a little complicated.
Right, thank you.
Which I can explain to you. I can explain to you offline, but not
Okay.
for this discussion.
All right, fine. And let me stop there, and I'll contact you and we can maybe discuss it further. Okay. It was a great presentation. Thank you. Learned a lot.
Good, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, well, we're right at about 2:30. We do have some short 3-minute videos on our website talking about the pool trust and QMB. We're looking to add some more to that. We're going to be doing some trainings on a monthly basis. In fact, ABLE, I believe, is on our list to do. Get a lot of questions about ABLE accounts, and you can actually use an ABLE. We actually distribute from special needs into ABLE sometimes. So there's they can work together very often. So look for more trainings and emails on different topics, and feel free to use AGIT as a resource. This is what we live and breathe, so we're happy to help in any way. And thank you very much.
Thank you.